Are we as kind in the United States as we want people to think that we are? Let that question sink in as I read you a snippet, okay? I'm not going to read the whole article, nor am I going to say names, because for obvious reasons I've made videos telling y'all as a kid that I was homeless, okay? So whether these names are fictitious for this story or not, I'm going to assume that these are real people and this could be their real names. I'm only reading a snippet and not the entire thing. So I left the link in the comments if y'all want to go to Cairo Radio and listen to it. So without further ado, come join me in the state of Washington. Well, we need to have a discussion. And let's get to this snippet. Last week, I wrote about the word homeless and what it's hiding. About blankety blank who lives in his Jeep with his dog after a divorce and a job loss, ready to work, unable to get help because he doesn't fit the profile the system was built for. About a woman in a tent in Ballard, severely addicted to fentanyl, found unresponsive twice in 1 week, turning down shelter every time it's offered. About a third group, the severely mentally ill, cycling endlessly between the street, the ER, and the jail. One word covering 3 completely different crises. One industry getting rich off the confusion. I was not prepared for what came back. A listener texted almost immediately to say I had perfectly described the homeless industrial complex. I've heard that phrase before. I'd never stopped to really sit with it, but that's exactly what it is. A system that has organized itself around the problem rather than the solution, where the incentive is to manage homelessness, not end it. People aren't confused about this. They see it clearly. They've been seeing it for years. They just haven't had anyone reflect it back to them without flinching. Blankety blank called it heresy. Around here, maybe it is. We've spent billions. The people sleeping outside are still sleeping outside. The people like blankety blank who just need a hand up can't get one. And suggesting that what we're doing clearly isn't working is apparently the most controversial thing you can say in this city. I'm not done with this story, not even close. You all know I like covering scams, right? It's not something that I get a sick satisfaction out of. I talk about this because as they interconnect us online, it's going to become easier for people to scam you, and they're going to come at you in different ways that you don't see it. Unfortunately, one of the ways in which these people do this is that they come under the guise of something that you're not seeing coming. When I read this for you all, we're going to hone in on a few things because I only read you a snippet and not the whole thing. And for me to be transparent and honest, Seattle is bad and notorious for this. And I started seeing this when I would go hang in Seattle often prior to the 2010s. And I could see it get worse, but I didn't know just how bad it was going to get. This is why when I say tent in Ballard, Ballard is out near the Tacoma area. I believe it's near me, but it's like fairly 45 minutes to an hour from me, but it's in the greater Seattle area. And so for me to be transparent, we also have to put Seattle under that lens. Okay. So let me see where that sentence went about the woman who turned down shelter every time. Homelessness has become a hustle, and before you all saw this title, I bet you hadn't heard the term homeless industrial complex. And The woman is turning down the shelter because people are becoming apprehensive about the lie that they want to help homeless people when they really don't. The person who texted this guy on Cairo News Radio, which is a famous Seattle radio station, also a famous television station, he defines it here as a system that has organized itself around the problem rather than the solution, where the incentive is to manage homelessness, not end it. That's an accurate definition of that. I would heartlessly also say that the definition of that is that it is a way for people to say that they're helping people when they're not, and getting government, state, local, and government funds to set up these places as ruses while living their lavish lifestyle. I've seen the stories of cities like Denver, different big cities in California, Seattle, all making these small little places, transitional house for the homeless, and you see these people happy that they don't have to sleep on the streets. See, the reason I covered this is because people are getting kicked out of their homes, of their transitional homes, as we speak. And all of these services like mental health and helping find a job, come to find out these people aren't doing it. If state, local, and federal governments are giving you these multi-million to billion-dollar grants, and these people are ending back on the street anywhere between a year to 5 years later, what are you doing with that money? When I saw those transitional homes, I was happy to see people that way, because I was homeless like 2 times as a kid. But the way it went down, there was uncertainty, but I wasn't on the street homeless. But think in both of those cases, I came close. Although I did have my love for those projects and I like to see them, I was also skeptical. And the reason I was skeptical is, if you want to take someone off the streets, why don't you make those neighborhoods and those houses you put them in a lot more permanent instead of transitional, where they can pay a very small rent, make them buildable and affordable to where they don't have to be on the streets to begin with. They can deal with whatever they're dealing with, whether it's mental illness, whether it's an inability to find a job. They at least have that home and that roof over their head to go back to have time to figure things out. I like those projects, but I was always a little bit in the back of my mind skeptical, because they were growing all over every city and people got swept up in it. And God bless, I believe that some people have good intentions behind it. But I always felt that that in the back of my mind, and I can say it now, that some of this has become a hustle. So to go back to the question in the beginning, is the United States as kind a nation as we think? Because we're not nice people. And that's going to make some people mad, but that's a fact. I'm not saying some Americans aren't nice. I'm just saying we are more kind than nice. But we're taking our own kindness for weakness. At this point, I don't think a lot of people in the United States are as kind as they want to believe that they are. Because kindness is not taking people off the streets and putting them in a home only to put them back on those same streets where they have to feel that same fear and uncertainty. And look, I know as a person who's Bible believing, the poor will have with us always. I believe that. But having people be poor doesn't equal being greedy and snatching from them and giving them the illusion of a warm meal, a roof over their head, and resources. Once you've done that, you've crossed the line of cruelty. Where's this money going? And then my question becomes, oh, we're so sorry, you got to go back on the street. No, the first question you should have asked is, where did that money go? And why are we not prosecuting these people who are this cruel? See, this article from that radio station, I would not say names because me personally, haven't had that happen to me as a kid, though the people in my life would downplay it and say it didn't out of shame. I can't stick that shame on them like they're bad people. They are just in a system that really doesn't care about them. So, Tara, what is the solution? Permanent housing made of the same materials where they pay a low rent. That way they don't feel obligated to take something for free that you can just snatch from them at any time, because once they paid a mortgage, even a small fee to live there a month and signed paperwork, you can't so easily snatch it up from them. I'm not saying transitional housing is not a good idea. I think as collective, we need to have more micro neighborhoods where people are paying a smaller fee and living in a nice place and don't have to go back on the streets. Because some people who are homeless are not drug addicts. Some people who are homeless aren't doing it for the hustle. They really bust their butt, work hard, and just could not keep up with the cost of living. The guy in the story who lives with his dog in a car upsets me, because Washington State, and I tell people, this state, you got to be forward tough. When you get married here, ensure that you and that person are on the same level playing field, or that you just married somebody who's in it for life. Because, man, divorces in this state are no joke. There was a story of a guy, because I think in the state of Washington, if you've been married to somebody for 25 plus years, don't hold me to this, and that person didn't work for most of the marriage, it don't matter which spouse it is, when they divorce you, they're going to take more because they didn't work and you still do. So there's a guy somewhere out in the greater Tacoma area, because he talked about it on a YouTube channel in the comment section, where she sat there and the wife and kept making excuses not to get a job for years. Make a long story short, she got to that 25-year mark, put in the papers, took the house, and he has to pay her a certain allowance. This man is a high-paid federal employee and has to couch hop on friends' couches, because that's how bad she fleeced him, because she never would work. And even his own kids took her side and resent him. My issue is that they make rent so high that this man couldn't go get a decent apartment to get back on his feet. That was my issue with it. I don't know what happened in those people's marriage, and I don't have any judgment of her or him. It's even cases in this state. I was even friends with one person where she had the money, and she literally was so tired one day that she got 1 day behind on paying her rent when the rent was due, and she came home to an eviction notice just because she forgot 1 day. Washington State has to stop pretending like they have empathy when they really don't. And I don't mean that to be mean, I mean it to be factual. So why am I saying this to you all, and what am I saying about this term homeless industrial complex? Just know that when someone offers you something for free to take you off of the streets, read between the lines of what they're actually offering you. I can't tell you all not to take transitional housing. I don't understand. I haven't known for years what it's like to not have a roof over my head or to not have a permanent place to go. Just know that your homelessness and your situation is somebody else's hustle, and that they're going to get state, federal, and local grants to demean you. And they really, some of them really don't care. I'm not saying all, and I'm making that disclaimer because you're not going to come back and sue me. Just know that sometimes to some of these people, you all are nothing more than a hustle. If there's paperwork, please ask to see it and read between the lines. Don't let anybody guilt trip you. Because while you're out freezing at night, while you're worried about crimes on the street, where you're going to get your next shower, your next warm roof, your next warm drink, clean water, and other resources, someone's looking at you as a hustle that can make them multi-millions. Because that's how heartless some people in the United States have become. I don't like what this nation is becoming. And I didn't even know till I started recording this on 4 April 2026 that there was a homeless industrial complex. I just watched a video, found out it exists because some homeless people in less than a few years in California in a transitional housing are about to be put back out on the streets, that this was a thing. People are so heartless now that they'll pretend to help get you off the streets only to put you right back there while they run off into the sunset and make multi-millions. The scamming in this nation, the lack of oversight, quite frankly, has become pathetic. All right. Y'all have a great day. I hope you enjoyed your Resurrection Sunday. And it's good to see y'all again. Take care.